Charlie, thanks for being with us. On social media, you called this a win and a day to celebrate for St. Anne's survivors. Can you tell us a little bit about why?
We have been fighting at least 8 years against some of the most toxic legal tactics imaginable from the federal government, all over the decision that was made going back to 2012, 2013, where the government suppressed thousands of pages of police evidence of the horrific torture and crime of children at St. Anne's, and then went into the residential school hearings, lied about that evidence, and had cases thrown out. And the survivors have been waiting for justice ever since.
What is so important about these documents for survivors?
Well, the federal government had a legal obligation under the residential school settlement agreement that they created this process that was supposed to adjudicate and get compensation to residential school survivors. And part of that was they were supposed to provide the evidence to the hearings of what actually happened in the institutions. And they told the survivors, just come and tell your story. But that's not what happened. At St. Anne's in Fort Albany was a horrific institution. The OPP launched a massive investigation into the 1990s. They had thousands and thousands of pages of evidence documenting child rape, torture, abuse, even the electric chair that was used to torture children as young as 5. And when the survivors came into the hearings, the federal government said, no, there's no history at all of any abuse at St. Anne's. Lied in those hearings and had cases thrown out. So they re-traumatized the survivors by telling them that they didn't believe their stories because there was no proof when the government was sitting on all that police and court evidence. So this was a massive injustice. It shouldn't have taken this long. The survivors tried back in 2015 to put forward what the government has finally agreed to today. Let's just get an independent review of what happened and make sure that there's a solution that's offered. And so today the government finally thrown in the towel.
Charlie, what do you expect to come out of this independent review of the documents?
The independent review will show that the legal rights of the St. Anne's survivors were terribly violated and deliberately violated. The suppression of evidence it should normally result in people being fired in the legal system. That never happened at St. Anne's. We know that the government spent over $3 million on lawyers to deny survivors their basic rights. I'm hoping that the government realizes that they couldn't bully or intimidate the survivors into silence. I'm hoping that this independent process will reveal people who should have been compensated fairly and were denied because of these actions by the Justice Department and their lawyers to suppress the evidence and undermine the hearings.
Charlie, we'll have to leave it there, but like you say, it is an important one here, and appreciate you spending some time with us to talk about it.
Well, it's such a huge day for the survivors. They never wavered, they never gave in to intimidation, and I think it's a story we should all be celebrating. Their resilience.